You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to KAren Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
Hello and welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with KAren Swain. So lovely to be with you all again today. Well, this is a first for me. We are live to over about 400,000 people listening. Hello, if you're listening on the syndicated radio network, the United Public Radio Network, and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on, you know it, 107.7 or 105.3 FM. But my guest has not shown up. So here I am. This is the first time it's happened. There have been people that have been sick and couldn't make the show last minute, but somebody's always stepped in. But this time I'm waiting online and there is a no-show. Hello, Sherry. How are you? So it looks like you've got just me today. And what will we do? I have to pivot really quickly. We can do a Q&A session. Would you like that? And if you want to come on live with me, send me a message and I'll send you the link. So what are we going to talk about? Well, I did have Sean Clayton, who was coming on the show today. This is Sean here. He has an incredible Instagram account with over 400,000 followers, talking about alchemy and abundance and spirituality. And he said that he would love to be on the show. Maybe he's got the times wrong. I do send out about 3 or 4 invitations with the times, asking people to come on half an hour early so we can check tech and chat. And yeah, I'm pretty diligent with all of this stuff. Send them links, the streaming links on wherever I can find them. But no show. Anyway, he sent me his bio. I really didn't know too much about him. I loved his Instagram account. And he looked like he had an amazing story. We'll talk a little bit about him. He might even show up. So I'll talk a little bit about him and then we can get into some Q&A. He transformed his life. He went from suicidal. He was even incarcerated. And what else happened to him? He was sexually abused as a child. So he had a rough time, a really rough time when he was younger. And then, hey, Lisha. Oh, she says the hair looks fabulous today. I did take some time with the hair, I tell you. I haven't got the best hair. He might pop in, you never know. Yeah, Shelley says he might pop in. Maybe some paranormal things that have happened. Maybe some paranoia. Sherry says, yeah. So anyway, and so he completely transformed his life, and now he's an alchemist and an abundance coach. And so he sent me his bio, and I was like really fascinated to hear his story. Like, how did you do this? Because I think that as we share our stories, we really learn from other people's stories. I had a client a couple of days ago, and she put me onto another channeler who was an Australian channeler. A girl called Rebecca. I can't think of her last name at the moment. Anyway, I might reach out to her to come on the show because I was listening to her channeling and I loved what she was saying. But I was discussing with my client that, you know, when you hear channeled information, it's such profound, exalted wisdom, and your heart sings and your mind says, yes, this rings true to me. Yes. But there's this stream of knowledge and stream of information. And I don't know, for most people, or anyway, for me, it's hard to actually retain. It's hard to remember what people say. I remember when I was young, I read many, many books. Wayne Dyer was one of them, and he was very instructive. He was a teacher and a channeler too. Not that he said he was channeling at the time, but he was. And he would be very instructive, and I would read this stuff and go, yes. And I'd shut the book, and could I remember any of it? No. Unless you actually participate in the knowledge, unless you actually apply the knowledge to yourself, do you actually remember what you're reading, or you apply it as the wisdom and you embody it in your life. But story, when you're presenting podcasts or even books or blogs, story is a way that the human mind has the ability to remember knowledge. I remember with Wayne Dyer, so I read not all his books because he wrote a lot of them, but a lot of his books, and my heart sang and my mind said yes. But could I remember any of the knowledge unless I started to absolutely apply it to my life? But when I read his story of searching for a father that he never knew, because I think the father left when he was about 2, and the family was that he was a drunk, and he grew up hating a man he never knew. And then he was like in his late 20s or 30s, I think, and he decided he wanted to find his father and talk to him. And hello, Penny, how are you? Yeah, my guest didn't turn up yet, or today. I don't know. He might pop in. Maybe he got the time wrong and he'll pop in an hour after he was supposed to, and we'll have half an hour. We'll wait and see. Anyway, and so I read his story about going on the search for his father and finding his father's grave. We're talking about Wayne Dyer, and sitting at the grave and forgiving a man he never knew, and just having that forgiveness, that he'd held this hatred and resentment for this man because he'd heard these stories about what a drunken bastard he was, and he forgave him, and how that profoundly transformed his life. So here it is, 20 years later, I can recite that story to you almost word for word. I shortened it a lot because I remember the story and I remember the lesson in the story. And at the time that I read that, I hadn't forgiven my father for the things that had happened to me in our very dysfunctional childhood, abuse, physical abuse, and I'd held a lot of resentment towards my father. So reading Wayne Dyer's story about forgiving his father and how it completely changed his life, I think he said he was already working as a psychologist or social worker at the time. So he's already out there helping people, but more in a mainstream way at that time. And after having this forgiveness for his father at his father's grave, I think it took him months or years to find the grave of his father. He said that he wrote this profound book, which became a bestseller in a matter of weeks. He started channeling, basically. He started to open, like when he unlocked the hatred in his heart, he started to open to a spiritual wisdom that started to flow through him. And then, the rest is history, as we say. He went on to become one of the biggest and best spiritual teachers of our time. There are many amazing spiritual teachers out there now. He has since left his physical body, but he has not left this world. He inspires many people, including me, from spirit. What are you saying here, Shirley? His voice has a frequency effect. It's so calming. Love to see someone wide up his voice and measure changes in their brainwave. Who are you talking about? Are you talking about Wayne Dyer, or are you talking about the person that was supposed to come on the show? Sean Clayton was the person that was supposed to come on the show today. And he's got a voice like that too. He has the most magnificent voice. That's why I was attracted to him. I was listening to his stuff on Instagram and I'm like, oh, this man's voice is beautiful. What are you saying here, Alicia? Similar to biblical parables when remembering messages. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, you're talking about Sean, Shirley. Yeah, Sean's voice. Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? And Wayne Dyer had that beautiful voice too. Exactly. So Alicia is saying that, yeah, the Bible, although I haven't read it in this lifetime, I think I probably did in many other lifetimes. I think I was a part of it, actually. Yeah, they disseminate the wisdom through parable, through story. And so this is what we attempt to do, or I attempt to do on the show, is to have people on the show to share their stories. And when you hear people's story of transformation and overcoming, it really sinks in. You hear your own story and other people's story because of the principle of oneness and unity. We are all one. We are all one, source. We come from the same source energy, living diverse lives. But when we listen to somebody's story, we hear our own story in their story, even if it's completely different. This is why Hollywood and soap operas are so popular. We love to watch other people's story and gossip. People love to gossip about other people's stories. It's like we're all wrapped up in everybody else's story. But really what we're hearing is we're hearing it for ourselves. We're hearing our own story. So when we love something about someone's story, that's who we are, or at least the potential of who we can be. And when we hate something about somebody's story, when we judge and criticize somebody, that's actually who we are as well. What resonates in another person's story is active in our vibration, is an active energy in our vibration. Whether it is potential or whether it is fully blown is up to us. But usually when we're listening to other people's stories and, people are doing terrible things and we get really angry and upset about what they've done, that is because that same frequency, that same belief structure, that same thought form is active in our vibration. We have to look at this. Another guy with a great speaking voice is, Paul Wallace. Yeah, he does. Another Aussie. Yeah, another guy with a great speaking voice, Lisha says, can listen to his audio books over and over again. He does have a beautiful, beautiful voice. What's Sherry saying here? Have you been to Egypt? Myself and a friend practice trance speaking, and often a man comes through her and makes reference to Egypt a long time ago. Interesting, Sherry. I'd love to hear more about that. Do you want to come on the show? I'll send you the link if you like. Let me copy the link if you're brave enough to come on, and let me pop it in the messenger chat, and you can come on the show. But yeah, I want to tell you a story about how that played out in my life. Yeah, this is the link if anyone's brave enough to come on with me. Nothing like doing this on a live show. Okay, so years ago when I was in my 20s, I was doing a personal growth program. And there was a woman, Sherry, I'd love to hear more. See, people want to hear more. There was a woman standing up, complaining about her husband. And I was a young girl sitting in a crowd of, I don't know how many people, 50, 100 people, maybe 200, I can't remember. It was years ago. But I remember I was screaming in my head, I wish this bloody woman would shut up. I'm sick of hearing about her complaining about her husband. She had an accent that at the time I didn't particularly like, and I was criticizing her accent. I was criticizing her. Like I was really screaming in my head about how this woman was really pissing me off. It's hilarious to think about now. And you know, when you get really upset about something, how it so drains your energy, especially when you're angry and frustrated at someone, anyone. It can be, anyone, a politician, someone that's done wrong by you. Anyway, lunch, we had the lunch break. And I remember sitting at lunch and I was absolutely exhausted because I had been so critical of this poor woman in my head. And I remember asking myself this question: why am I so upset about this woman? She's just another participant who's trying to sort it all out. She's asking questions about her relationship because she's having she's having problems in her relationship and she's trying to understand. And so she stood up about 3 or 4 times and asked questions in a group, and she stood up bravely, took the microphone and asked personal questions in front of all these people. Why was I so upset? Why did that trigger me so much? So I asked the question and then relaxed, because remember, I was exhausted from being so critical in my head. It was only in my head. And then the thought came to me, or the guides or the mob told me, it is because of your fear. You are so scared to stand up and bare your soul in front of, a crowd of people. It's one of your biggest fears. And I thought to myself, oh boy, isn't it? And they said, you are scared that people are going to criticize you as harshly as you're criticizing her. And I thought to myself, oh, that is so true. If I stood up and bared my soul and then people thought, oh, you stupid idiot, sit down. Who are you? You're pissing me off. Like the same thoughts that I was having about her, I would be mortified. We're all so scared of ridicule, aren't we? And other people's criticisms. It's one of our biggest fears. So this was something that I was really scared about. And I remember thinking I was too shy or too scared at the time after lunch to stand up and speak. There was just no way that I would have put my hand up and even asked a question, not just bearing my soul, but even asked a question. And I thought, this is so true. I'm criticizing this poor woman because of my own fear of my own criticism coming back at me. And it was a profound epiphany for me at the time. I think I was, how old was I? Early 30s I was. Scared of public speaking, which is really fear of criticism, fear of ridicule. And what we're really scared of is our own thoughts. We're scared of people hating us as much as we hate ourselves secretly. So I made a pact with myself. I made commitment with myself that I would find the courage to stand up in front of people and speak and bare my soul. And I remember at the end of the course, they had a program where they invited you to invite other people and to share the work. And so we had this big hall, and now there wasn't 50 or 100 people in the hall. Now there was like 1,000 people, because everyone came that had done the course, and they brought 1 or 2 or 3 friends or family members to share what they had learned. And I remember I'd made this commitment that I was going to bare my soul. My biggest fear was going to be realized. And I found myself sitting in the front row. Don't you love it? Like, we all shuffled into this big hall, and I found myself being sort of moved into the front row, like almost right in front of the podium where the speakers were speaking. And when someone asked the audience who would like to stand up and share their experience from the personal growth course that you've done, I tentatively raised my hand, hoping and praying that nobody that would choose me. Please don't choose me. Please don't choose me. And the person facilitating the group or the conference looked at me straight away and pointed at me and said, "You." And I thought, oh boy, here we go. Here we go. So I walked up on that stage and looked out at this sea of people. And there were some celebrities in the audience too, which I thought was really interesting, which was also even more scary. I don't know why. And my greatest fear was realized. I stood there in front of like 1,000 people and bared my soul about what I had learnt at the course, you know, where I was at the beginning, how much hatred and unforgiveness I'd had in my heart and how I'd let go of that. I can't really remember what I said, but I remember I was shaking like a leaf, and I think my voice was shaking like a leaf. Ah, there's Sherry. Yay! Shaking like a leaf. And it was the first time I really ever did that, stood up and spoke about myself in front of people, or just stood up in front of people and spoke. And as they say, the rest is history. Even at school, when we had to stand up and read out of the book, I don't know if that still happens in school, I would actually stay home when that class came around because I didn't want to stand up and read the book. So overcoming your fears, yeah, that was one of the fears. Oh, there's Gloria. Hey, Gloria. How are you? And here's Sherry. Yay! Hi, darling.
How are you?
I'm good. Nice to see you. Thanks for having the courage to come on the show. And
I said, why not? I'll pretend it's just you.
Just me. You're only talking to me. A couple of the gals online. That's nobody else. So
how are you today?
I'm good, darling. And you?
Oh, good.
Egypt.
Good. Yes. So myself and a friend, we went to, well, I've been several times now to the Arthur Findlay College in England for mediumship and that kind of thing. So the last time we went was in October, and I did trance this time. I wasn't particularly interested in a trance because I like the evidential mediumship, you know, just giving the evidence and speaking.
Yeah.
But I had to say it was awesome. It was really good. So, you know, it just kind of involves, I know you know, but I'll just explain it a little bit. So you just, you kind of go inside and just go deep inside, and you invite your guides or whoever works with you, because we all have people who work with us, but, and when you're doing particular things. So invite those people in. And if after a while, if you feel you'd like to speak, they can actually speak through you. So I found that how it worked for me was I'd spend a bit of time, you know, with your breath, breathing in, breathing out, until I felt myself going deeper, deeper, deeper. And then it was, the only way I can explain it is almost like I feel words, or almost hear words. It's weird, coming in this way, and I'll get the first snippet. It might be the first little bit, like you know, I ask the truth or whatever the words are. They'll just keep repeating until I feel, I'll ask, like, is this what you want me to say? And then it becomes tighter and stronger until it kind of almost moves up your throat. And as I start to speak, I don't have any idea what they're going to say behind it. No idea, but it always makes sense. And then you just start to speak, and it's almost as if I'm listening as well. I'm listening
Yes.
if almost like if I was listening to you, I'm listening to what you're saying. So it's really
Absolutely.
interesting. But at times, when we've so since we came back, we've been practicing with each other. Just once a week we'll do the practice kind of thing. But I find it very interesting with her because with clairvoyance, of course, I can kind of see, is almost an overlay on her when this man comes in. So he looks to me like a pharaoh kind of a look. He had a bald head, but he's very powerful. You can just tell, and you just get this Egypt thing. But he'll bring up different things at times. Like just the other day, he was as soon as she started to go deeper, I could see him there, and I spoke to him in my head. You know, I was saying, "I see you there," and he gave a couple of little things. He was talking about Egypt, and he said Egypt wasn't always a dry place; it was a very fertile ground, and you know, several little things like that that you look into after. So when she began to speak, it was I can read a little bit after. I do have some of it written down, but I asked when there was a little break. I asked because before I was thinking maybe it's Ramses or somebody like that. So I said, could I ask who is speaking?
Yeah.
And there was a pause and nothing. Then he said, Imhotep. Amen. I can't even say it, Amenhotep or whatever. And I was surprised because that's kind of not who I was thinking it was. But of course, there were several of them, one being the father of Tutankhamun. But he'll give certain little things. And at times, even evidential things. Just for me, like he could say that something to do with me, you were in the garden today doing something or other, like or whatever, just to kind of let you know that they're there. So I just find it really interesting, and every time it's a message that they give, and it's pretty interesting what comes out.
Yeah.
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 Mm.
Amazing. Amazing.
Mm.
So how do you say his name? Amenhotep.
I had to write it down. Amenhotep, Amenhotep, I don't know. Amenhotep
Mm.
and so when you look it up, there were several, and like I said, one of them being Tutankhamun's father. So,
Yeah.
it's interesting what
Yeah,
they did.
fascinating.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that part of the world for many, many years, I don't know how many years, maybe thousands of years, was at one point probably the most enlightened place on the planet. And it's
Mhm.
interesting that you say that it wasn't always a desert, because when you go to Egypt, you're in the desert for
Yeah.
sure.
Mm.
Yeah, and that it
And
was
when
lush.
we looked it up after, sure enough, it did say that it was at one point a very fertile place, because we looked it up, online on Google, of course, or whatever. But and he was right. And different things he has come through and said, he's been right. So it's
Yeah.
it's interesting. I love doing it because I love to hear what's he going to say, or what are mine going to say, even to her, which is interesting as well, because sometimes they've given things that are. Just one week we were doing it, and they started to say to her that it was we are very proud of you. You stood up to that lady, and others followed you, and she will not bother you anymore. And they went out with a whole, you did well, like whatever it was. And I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, what are they talking about? What is this? Like, because you want it to be right or make sense. And sure enough, the situation had happened with like an ex-mother-in-law, and all of this stuff had happened. I didn't know about it. She doesn't even live here. She's in Saskatchewan. I'm in Newfoundland, kind of thing, And so it was very interesting to me. I didn't know anything about it, but I guess they did, or somebody did.
So since you've come back from the course, how long ago did you do it?
Well, we did that one in October. Now I've been there several times and have done the evidential mediumship, but the trance one was October past.
October last year, 2024.
Yeah.
And what's been your experience about, learning trance mediumship since you've been back? I mean, have you managed to do it by yourself, or do you need somebody else?
So do you
sort
know
of
something? They've always
come in?
said, or even over there and doing other stuff, because I have done a bit of it before that, but
Yeah.
it wasn't really my big interest kind of thing. But they've always said that nobody will really speak if it's only you there. So I had the experience one day because I do my sitting in the power meditation kind of thing. And one day I got the same feeling, like you could feel the tightness. I could feel a few words, and then it started to get tight, tight, tight. And I was to myself, I'm here by myself. And in my head right away, they said, "Aren't you listening?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I am." So I guess, so to me, that's not necessarily true what they said, that they won't come through and speak, you know, because they will. And I mean, you do it all the time without even going in trance. They just speak to you.
Well, absolutely. And Shirley's saying, is automatic writing a form of trance? Yeah, look, it's interesting. The words that we use, having Grant Cameron on the show last week, we were talking about channeling, and then I was talking about channeling to my client, and I was listening to this Australian woman channeling, and this is what the guide said to me. This is what I said to Grant. I think I freaked him out a little bit. This is after the show. When I contacted the energy known as Yeshua or Jesus or Sananda or whatever you want to call him, but that same energy stream that was the life of Jesus, because you know my story, Sherry, like when I was young, if anyone talked about Jesus, I wanted to punch them in the face and say, "You God botherer," and I didn't sort of believe in any of that religious stuff. And then I find myself talking to Jesus. I'm like, huh? Anyway, so he said to me, so it wasn't like I was like reaching out and saying, "Please, Jesus, speak to me, speak to me." He said to me, he would just chat to me all the time, or that same energy stream or wisdom, if you like. He said, "I never said I was channeling. I always said, me and the Father are one. I and the Father are one." And I'm like, interesting. And I didn't really understand what that meant, because, the phenomena now we have with all these channelers everywhere. And I think I've said this in the Inner Sanctum. So I never really put myself out there as a channeler either, because we all have the capacity to contact any stream of energy or stream of wisdom. Call it Jesus, call it, what's his name from Egypt, or call it guardian angel.
Any of those, yeah, they all come through.
Like we all have the capacity to have access to that stream of consciousness if we choose to, without bells and whistles, without all the rigmarole. Like you say to me, "I've just got access." Yeah, it's just telepathy. It's just a thought, but it's understanding, discerning, the different quality of thought, like understanding that a thought that is based in criticism or striving or wanting, any sort of criticism or striving, there's a frequency, there's a feeling to the thought which is a little tense, is always a thought based in ego or the human striving or the human mind. And a thought that just comes effortlessly. You said that you got this sort of feeling beforehand. Often, in order for you to discern the different frequencies that are coming through you, they'll give you what's the word? What does Stephen Simon? A show. What does he say? A symbol, like that you recognize, like a feeling or a show. A sign is the word I'm looking for. Thank you. Stephen Simon, who's coming back on the show too, when he speaks to his, in quotes, dead wife, his wife who transitioned a few years ago, that was a lot younger than him, and he always thought he'd go first. But anyway, when he speaks to her, and he never thought that he was psychic in any way, but they did talk about when one of them leaves the planet, they're going to stay in communication. He said he always has this sign, and he knows that it's her talking and not just his wanting, his imagination, if you like. This is what we call it. And I was speaking to another friend who is channeling too, and she was saying that she gets this sensation before it happens. And then the guide said to me, well, that is that sign. It's a bit like your training wheels, so that you can discern that the information coming through is definitely not your, in air quotes, imagination or wanting, but that it is actually the energy that you've been summoning. So when you did the course, Were you like summoning specific energy? Were you saying, I want to
No,
speak to this?
no, we were just kind of going with our guides, and like we did little exercises. Like one exercise was there was me and another person. So we sat and we were both going to do it. Like he would watch me, then I would watch him, kind of thing. He'd write down anything I said, whatever. But what we had to do is first we had to write down a word. So before I went, he had to write down a word. I couldn't see the word. Nobody was seeing the word. Then he just turned the paper over. So then I had to, go into trance, and took a little while and start speaking. And I started to speak all about this, the light. You are the light of the world and the light under the bushel, and don't hide your light. And it says in the Bible, and it just went on and on and on, and on about light
Nice.
and stuff. So anyway, at the very end, I opened my eyes and I was like, okay, so did all that make sense? As long as it made sense. And he said, oh yeah. And he was smiling. And I said, what was the word? He turned it over, light. I said, whoa, that's so they're obvious. So it just goes to show that they're listening or looking or, paying attention, kind of thing and they will, if you ask them, if you're doing exercises and those kinds of things, anytime we've done it with the mediumship, with the trance, with any of that, they know what exercise you're doing, and they'll bring it in that kind of an environment. Like even with the evidential mediumship, you could practice, okay, I'd like to get a smell, some kind of smell.
Yeah.
When we're doing it today, we get a smell, and you can smell it as clear as anything, like baking bread, oh God, anything, bacon, flowers, roses, like you can really get the scent, and it is something belonging to their loved one, so
Yeah.
it's very, I love it. I love it. It's just so interesting. And so I wouldn't be able to stop. Like if somebody said, okay, Sherry, you're not doing none of that stuff, woo woo, or whatever you think it is anymore, I'd be like, oh no.
Penny says that Sherry, you're a natural and amazing co-host. You are a natural. Absolutely. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
with oftentimes too, like when you do your meditation and stuff, and when you're saying, like, they give you a sign sometimes, and other times they don't, but you also have to trust that what they're telling you or what you're getting is real. And I know in the beginning you're probably saying, like, oh my God, that's me thinking that or whatever, but ask them to like give you something evidential. They've given me that lots of times, like some kind of evidence. Like one time I was with my cousin, and we did the same thing. I went into trance, but my intention was either my guides, her guides, one of them come through with just some uplifting information or something for her. So I started to, once, I was there, my eyes are closed and whatever. I don't know what she's doing. And so just started to speak. And as I started to speak, it was, about love and we care for you. And it was, that kind of a message. And she was there. She said, well, are you with me? And of course, I was thinking to myself, well, they're going to say yes, And anyway, they did say yes, we're always with you. And so then she said, well, give me an example of when you were with me. And I'm thinking, oh, here we go. They're just going to say, we're always with you. But no, they gave this example that that one night she wasn't feeling well, or as she woke up, she fell out of bed, hit her knee, hit her head on the floor, and was lying face down, crying on the floor. And we were with you. And finally, when it was all over and I opened my eyes, I went, is that true? And she was crying. Yes, yes, it's true. And I was even more surprised, So, and I didn't know
Oh,
anything
no.
about it. So you can ask them for signs and stuff, and they're willing to give you any of that, just just to put you on your path and just to know that you are getting what you are, because most people can. It's just that I guess they don't believe they can, or they don't put in the bit of time that it takes to, figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm,
Yeah, it's so much fun. I remember when I was in my 30s doing this healing courses. Let me before I go into that story, let me finish what
mm.
they said about channeling when I
Oh
was
yeah.
talking to Jesus, and Jesus said, I never said I was channeling. I always said, me and the Father are one, or I and the Father are one. I don't know how he phrased it, but he phrased it in that sort of biblical way, which is not something that I was used to because I didn't read the Bible in this lifetime. Anyway,
Mm,
and I said, well, what about this phenomena about all these channelers, And they said to me, if we were to wait until everyone who is here on earth to enlighten earth makes a commitment and a knowing that they are one with the exalted wisdom, that they have that same access, we would, it would never happen. So what we did was we had an agreement with all these souls that have come to earth to navigate the earth experience and to don an ego and a mind-body complex and, to navigate that and to be of assistance to imparting wisdom to humanity. We made an agreement with them that we would just move aside their doubt and their ego, and we would, channel through this wisdom. And it's so interesting because I've met so many fascinating and amazing channelers that don't necessarily walk the talk. Even one of the first books I ever read was the Sex Material, which was channeled material back in the 60s by Jane Roberts. And Jane Roberts was, I won't criticize her, but she was a drinker and a smoker, and she was an interesting character, and she got really sick, and all this information came through for her health that she didn't necessarily listen to, like this exalted channeling came through to help her overcome her health issues that she didn't necessarily listen to. And so it's so interesting that, channelers, or we can all have that same sort of human journey and drama and still bring through exalted wisdom. Like, you don't have to be holier than thou to bring through exalted wisdom.
Yeah, living in the ashram or
living in the ashram, exactly. Being a monk.
You just need to pay attention, and if it's something you want, you can certainly do it. And even, with the animals too. And I mean, most people have animals. A lot of people have animals. Just start to pay attention. Like, I can think in my head, what I do when I do, like, talk to the dogs or talk to whatever, how I started was I would just put a little picture in my head. Like, if the dog was across the floor, I would just put a picture in my head of him walking across the floor to me. And he's only small. One of them is only tiny. And me picking him up and laying him on the couch. So I just send him 2 little pictures. And you can see when he gets it, he's kind of stopped. And then he'll kind of go.
He'll stop and think about it.
He'll come on over, come on over and do exactly, turn sideways, and I'll pick him up and lay him down. So, I mean, it's that kind of, and you can connect to any of them. A friend contacted me one day, and she said, this was a long time ago, and she said, Sherry, can you ask my cat a question? And I said, well, Joan, I haven't really done much of that kind of thing. Or she said, I know you can do it. Can you just try? Just try. I said, okay, whatever, okay, we'll do it. So we got on Zoom or one of those things. And so she showed me a picture of her cat, and the picture of the cat was there. So all of a sudden, I'm up in my little room, and I have a massage table there, like that I do Reiki and stuff. And all of a sudden, it was almost as if the cat was sitting on the massage table directly across. And he gave me like things that were evidential. First of all, he said, I got the words, and it's not like they're talking, but you just get it, the first thing he came up with, I have bugs in my ears. And I was like, I said, he's saying he has bugs in his ears. And she said, oh my gosh, he is being treated for ear mites. I said, okay, well, that's good. Okay, we'll see what else he goes with, right? So then the next thing, it was just like he was sitting there again, and he had some kind of treat or something sitting in front of him, and he went and like just flicked it with his paw, and the word came right in my head, tuna. I said, well, whatever you're giving him, like treats or something, he's kind of flicking it, but tuna is the word that he seems to like. And she said, yes, she said they stopped giving him tuna because of the mercury and all of that, and he don't like the treats he's getting. So I said, well,
bring back the tuna. The tuna.
And then the question that she wanted to know was, she had recently like broken up with her husband and stuff, and she was kind of lonely. This cat was very old. It was about 22 years old. And she was thinking about getting a dog to keep her company and to be able to walk with and that kind of thing. And she didn't know if that would go over well with the cat. And I said, okay, well, I'll ask him because he's obviously connecting, So I asked, and the answer he gave was that, and again, it's not like you're talking in every little word, but you just get it. You just know it. And the answer he gave was that while it wouldn't be his favorite thing, he knew he wasn't going to be there much longer. He's been sticking around for her to help her, and he would be okay with the dog coming. So that was his answer.
Ah,
So, and she said after that, when she had tried, because she does psychic stuff too, when she had connected, she got much the same answer. But of course, you don't trust it when it's yourself and your own animals, you know. But yeah, so I've got pretty much the same thing.
yeah,
And
I've got an interesting story about that. I think I shared with the group. Desley wants to know, did you have this ability as a child? Were you encouraged?
No, I wasn't encouraged, but I wasn't discouraged either. You know, all I remember is when I was young, I always felt that there was spirits or there was something around, around me. I'd be sitting up on top of the step at 12 o'clock in the night crying. I don't want to go to bed. There's people in the room. There's stuff under the bed. But I don't remember actually seeing them. I just felt like there always was,
Yeah.
and but as I look back, different things now that I'm after doing more now, I realize, okay, well, I guess they were around then because there's different little things you think of. Yeah. But I was
Exactly.
always one to I can remember reading the Amityville Horror at like 10. I'd get all of those scary books. I'd do all that, ghosts, whatever, I'd be all over that. But yeah.
Yeah, Licia says that the telepathy takes track. Episode 2 also explores animal telepathy, including
Okay, I
horses and
was just
dogs.
I'm only through the first one. I finally started to listen to them. So I had to
Yeah,
continue.
I
Yeah.
know. I have to tell you, I've shared this on Facebook and I've shared it in the group, but I'll say it while I'm here. A friend of mine left her body recently. She's a girl I went to school with. I hadn't seen for years, and I had no idea that she was sick because I'd lost contact with that group of people. But I always just adored her. She was like, I'm not going to say is just one of the most beautiful people. At school, she was really popular. Everyone wanted to be her friend. It was funny. I used to think to myself, what's this popularity thing? But she was definitely a light worker. And here at the funeral, people were saying how she was so positive, even in the face of a brain tumor. She was paralyzed down one side. She was still really upbeat and positive and shining her light. She didn't necessarily, work in any way like we do, doing readings or any of this stuff, and really wasn't even involved in this conversation. Just a beautiful being. Anyway, she passed away. And I was upset that she passed away, not so much because of where she is now, but that I hadn't seen her in so many years. I'd sort of missed that opportunity, because in my mind, I'm like, I should go up. She didn't live near me. I should go and, see her. I should go. I should. Procrastination. And I didn't. And she'd left her body. And I had this image of her in spirit with a little black sort of poodly doodly looking animal, short little black dog, curly hair. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And I thought about what's that sign? Like, why am I seeing this image of her with a dog? And I thought about her energy, and she had that sort of fast, a little bit nervous energy, like a little poodle,
Like the dog, yeah.
Dog, yeah. And I thought, yeah, her energy was a bit like that, sweet and sort of like fast, like always on the go. And then I thought to myself, she must have had a dog like that. She always had animals, usually black animals. As kids, she had two big black, the family had two big black Labradors. But on the day before her funeral, no, the day of her funeral or celebration of life, I woke up to this woman screaming and screaming and screaming the neighborhood down. So I jumped out of bed, threw some clothes on, and went outside to investigate. She was right outside my house. And there was a few people milling around, and I'm like, what's going on? Someone's been hit by a car. What's going on? And this woman's screaming and screaming and screaming. And then I noticed a little black poodle doodle dog,
Wow.
little black curly, lying on the grass on the side of the road. And so I went outside and saw it there. And I immediately went over to the dog to see if it was, what was going on. And someone was holding this woman who was just screaming and screaming and screaming. And then there was these two men with other dogs on leashes that were sort of hovering around the body. So I put my hands on the body to see if this dog was, if I could bring back the dog, because I've had the cat bring in dead birds and I've held them in my hands and they've come back to life. And I thought, you never know.
Yeah,
Maybe, you never know your luck. Let me communicate with the dog and see what's going on. Is he out of here? Is he coming back? And the men were assuring me that the dog was dead and that they saw the accident and that the car had hit it and like gone over its head and crushed its skull. It didn't look crushed to me at the time I was looking at it. but that they were assuring me that this dog was dead, but I wasn't sure. I'm thinking, well, you never know. So I'm just holding this dog, or have my hands on the dog, and I couldn't feel him breathing. I couldn't feel a heartbeat. And one of the men was holding a big dog, a big poodly doodle thing, like a big dog. I don't know what sort of dog it was. And this dog was like trying to get at the other dog, and the owner was holding it back. And I looked up at him and I said, let him come. And so he let the dog came over, the big dog, and the big dog put his nose right down on the little dog's head and sniffed him. And I'm sitting there not sure. I couldn't feel any communication with the dead dog, so to speak. I couldn't feel anything really. I was in my not sure at all what was happening. Can I help? Can't I help? And the big dog just sniffed him and looked me in the eyes and said to me, he's gone.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, I looked at this dog in the eyes and I said, oh, he's definitely gone. There's nothing I can do. Like, the dog was the one that told me, even though the men were saying, he's definitely dead, he's definitely dead. The dog could hear my, maybe not, he could hear my thoughts.
Yeah, that's why he wanted to get over to you.
He wanted to get over to, and when he sniffed the dog and looked me in the eye and said, he's gone, he walked away and was not interested in going near the dog again. And the other dogs that were on leashes were also not interested, because they were all biting at the bit to try and get close to this little dog's body, and the owners were holding them back. And then eventually the lady that was holding the woman screaming, because she just wouldn't stop screaming, the poor love. It's funny that I paid attention to the dog and not her. I didn't pay any attention to her.
Shocking, but I'd probably do the same thing.
I thought about it after. I thought, I didn't pay any attention to her. I went immediately to the dog. But I wanted to see if what was happening, and maybe I could help. I'm like, you're a healer. Maybe you can bring this dog back to life. And but it was so weird that on the day of my friend's funeral, I had seen this image of her with a black dog, exactly like this dog that was
with that little dog.
Yeah. And what did somebody say in the group? I think it was you, Desley, that you said maybe that little dog that I saw in spirit was a dog that she'd had years ago and had come back into another dog's body and then left. And I don't know, like, there's lots of things that could have happened.
Yeah.
Dog.
I feel like it was almost a sign to you as well that, that this happened and that little dog was in with her, and it was it was kind of a reassurance to you that it was that day and that kind of thing too.
Yeah. Yeah, that little dog was definitely that image I saw of her. And then I found a friend of hers who had come from the States. She now lives in the States. She'd come over because her name was Diana. We called her Di. She knew she was going. The doctors had said, you're going to die. So she knew she was going. So she had a living wake. Like 2 days before she died, she invited people over to say goodbye, had a living wake, which was really cool. And then that day that the dog left, was killed in front of my place, was the wake that she had after she passed. There were like so many people there. It was just packed. It was absolutely packed. But yeah, it was confirmation that I had seen her with her dog in spirit. It was funny because I came home after I helped someone wrap up the little dog's body, and the other lady that was the owner had gone away. There was a few of us milling around, and when it was all gone, I came back home and I thought, whoa, there's something to wake up to. And I went out the back and started pulling up weeds from in between the cement tiles. I don't know what I was thinking. But as I bent down to pull up a weed, there was a white feather there. And that's when I remembered the image I had of my friend.
You hadn't remembered it up to that.
Yeah, I was so caught up with what was happening outside. The screaming. The screaming was incredible. The woman, she was very upset because it happened right in front of her. She'd just come out of her house, out of the driveway, and the little dog had just run in front, and this truck had just run straight over him. And he kept going because the people said to me that the big ute ran over him, didn't even feel that he'd run over didn't even know that he'd run over the dog. Yeah. And so it had happened right in front of her eyes, the poor thing. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, that confirmation, another story I want to share with you all. Thanks for being on with me. So cool. My guest didn't show up. And Sherry's in Canada, Sherry Maddigan. And also, lots of stuff happening in Canada at the moment. And you do art as well. You do is that spirit art?
Oh yeah, no, that's I do the portraits. That's
Portrait.
one of my puppies. And actually, I've done some I've done some of that. This is one of mine. She came from Cuba. That little dog. She was a rescue from there. But I have done portraits for people, and when I'm doing the portraits, I get stuff if they've passed already or whatever. I've gotten things from that, and again with the animal communication. My son came home one day and he said, "Ma, can you do some Reiki or do some of that energy stuff you do for my friend's dog? I don't think he's very well, and they think he's dying." And I said, "Okay, well, what's his name?" And, this and that and whatever. So when I went out and sat and I did get the dog, and he was very nervous and scared, and I could just feel it. So I was talking to him, in my head kind of thing. And he gave so many pictures. He gave this picture of this beautiful blanket that he kept with him. He loved my son's friend. It was a family dog, but his friend was the one he loved. He was his person, and there was already an appointment made for the following week to put him down. But this was say a week ahead of time, and I told him that it was okay if you wanted to go before. And I was telling him, my son's friend, he'll be okay, this kind of stuff and whatever. And I just got several things back from him. So then I was excited, we got this information. I wonder if it's right, So I was waiting the whole day for my son to come home, and it was right up until 12 o'clock. And I was like, ah. So he came home finally, and I was telling him all of this stuff. Now, Aaron, this, and this. And I didn't even let him speak. And finally he said, "Mom, he passed. He died." I said, "Really?" And he said, "What time were you doing the Reiki and stuff on him?" And I told him. He said, he said, "After you did that, he became very calm and quiet and just relaxed, and he passed shortly after that." So that, so that was, it was good for the little dog. But a little while later, then my son wanted me to paint that dog for his friend for his birthday present, a surprise. And so as I painted him, I got all kinds of information. I got him up by this cabin and a dock and all of this stuff. And he was with this man who was the boy's grandfather and all, so I got all kinds of information from the dog. And he was happy and he was running around, and so again, when my son comes home, I'm telling him, he's with his grandfather and he's by this cabin and this and this. And he looks at me like, "No, Ma, I don't think so. I've never heard him talk about a grandfather or cabins or none of that." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And like a day later, he comes back, "Yeah, you're right. They used to go there when several years ago, and the dog loved the grandfather and this." So,
I bet
they give information.
I bet that really helped your son. Like that was that confirmation. I love it when you get that confirmation.
Yes, and you love that when you think, you don't know and they got to go find out and come back, and then it is right. So it's great. But yeah, so when I do some of those pictures and stuff like that, I get information and stuff too. So that's kind of cool too. So then when I give the person the picture, I'll also say, "Do you want to hear any information that I got or whatever?" And they'll say yes. And they've all said yes. And then I'll give them all the information, and pretty much it's right on. So, that's really cool. And one of my brothers, I did one for him, and in it, she showed me this toy that was still in their house, stuck underneath the bed and stuff. And I told him that, and he said, "No, sure, we took everything out. Everything is gone." Yeah. He found the toy stuck under the bed. Yeah. Yay!
That is so cool, Sherry. Frances Keys online. Hey, Frances, it's so great to see you. She's got a big message here. Let me see if I can bring it up. Will it fit? Is it possible that your friend's love of dogs led her to work helping animals cry? Oh, Frances, you are spot on, because I asked, and that's exactly what I got. That's exactly. She's saying here, she showed herself to you with this dog spirit, knowing that you would then encounter the body as proof that she was on the other side and doing this meaningful work. You are spot on.
That's beautiful.
There really is no time. Absolutely. It would not matter how these events occur in the sequence. That's exactly
beautiful.
Exactly what I got.
Wasn't Frances?
I have to get. Yeah, I have to get it back on the show. I have to
Yeah,
say,
because
because I've been
I
on,
watched it. Yeah, when I saw her
I've,
name and her little picture. Yeah.
I've been on
Mm.
the United Public Radio Network now for just over a year, and I'm inviting past guests on the show because we've got this whole new audience. But Francis Reiki channeled these magnificent books called the Team Books, which were some of my favorite mandatory reading, I say to people, favorite spiritual. But when I was trying to work it all out, like, you know, seeing the dog in spirit and feeling the energy of my friend and then having this dog of the same sort of looking dog die in front of me, that's exactly what I asked my mob, my team, like, what's this like, what's the connection, what's this all about? And that's exactly what they said to me. And Francis, you've just confirmed it. They said she on the other side is doing that, is helping dogs cross, you know, animals cross over, like as a spirit guide. That's exactly what she's doing. And
That's beautiful.
I haven't actually said that to anyone. I haven't said that to any of her friends or family or anything. Yeah, that's exactly what they told me. I haven't spoken that out loud. So you've tuned in. So Francis also works as, you know, as a channel and a psychic and a guide. And for a time, Francis was doing some readings with people, but I think then you decided that really wasn't. Shirley says, "Oh yes, Francis." That really wasn't your calling to do that, to sort of do psychic readings on people. We all have different callings, you know, and yeah, getting that confirmation. I love it. That's a confirmation. That's an absolute confirmation. And Claudia, hey Claudia, do you want to come on and chat with us? My deceased father came to me in a dream to show me 2 books I'm supposed to write. May I ask if what I'm writing is what he wanted? Yes, 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 yes. Is the answer to that question. But I think you already know that. You already know that.
And I'm sure if she just tuned in, she would hear him the same,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Claudia's story is amazing. She's also been on the show, I think only once. Have I had you back on the show? Maybe in the Inner Sanctum with us as well. And she had a near-death experience where she had this out-of-body experience, and then she investigated other people's near-death experiences, and they had these amazing stories. And Claudia was like, "How come I didn't have an amazing one like that?" And so she asked her mob, her guides, why didn't I have that amazing? What's my thing to do here on earth? And at night, she goes to spirit school, she calls it, and she has all these lessons that she remembers in the morning and writes them all down in her books. And they're amazing and profound. And I'm amazed that you even asked that question. Is that something your father wanted you to write? Absolutely. Your work is amazing. What does Leah say here? Karen, my mum, how do you say that name?
Dulcie. I have a brain, Dulcie. That's how we pronounce it. Yeah.
Last year, I want to tell her I love her and will follow her creative work. Karen, my mum, Dulcie, last yesterday. What is that last? I want to tell her. Did she die? Oh, yeah, she passed away. Here she is. Yeah. She passed away yesterday. Yesterday. And you want to tell her that you'll follow. Well, every time you have a thought, here's the thing: there's no privacy. You think that you're thinking in your head and no one's listening. I'm sorry, the universe is listening. Yeah. Your thoughts. That's why I can be so, like telling that story about how critical and ugly I was when I was young. So honest and bare my soul openly in front of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. Because, there is no privacy in spirit. Every thought you have, you're being listened to, either by your people who are now in spirit, or your soul, or your spirit team, or your, guides. They're hearing everything you say. So when you reach out to a medium or someone and you say, please tell my father or my mother I love them, they already know that, because they know your heart. Yeah.
They've often told me things, like, I was with you when you were stood brushing your teeth and you asked me the question, or they'll often bring that. So they're listening all the time, or
all the time.
Maybe not all the time, but I mean, if you say mom, in a question or what, they're definitely, they'll be right on, right on that frequency and hear what you're saying for sure.
Yeah, if we knew that the universe was listening to every thought we had, we'd be maybe a little bit more careful about what we think, because some people have some really ugly thoughts, and they think that, you know, nobody can hear their thoughts, but the universe is listening. The universe is listening
Karen,
to
do
your
you
thoughts.
find that that's happening like quicker? One time it felt like if you had a thought or whatever, it would take a bit of time to manifest it. But I'm finding that even little thoughts, you just think it and it's almost happening right away. Just, you know, little things. I just find it's happening quicker than it did.
Absolutely, the quickening,
Mhm.
absolutely. So what's happening is that, you know, when you go into astral realms, like when you leave, like at night, we're all in an astral realm in our astral body. Thought manifests much quicker there, not instantaneously, but much quicker here on Earth. But here on Earth, when you have a thought, the manifestation of the thought, we're under this buffer of time. So it doesn't happen instantaneously, and nor would you want it, because when you're having those really negative thoughts, you wouldn't want those negative thoughts to show up in your face immediately. You just wouldn't want that. That buffer of time gives you that opportunity to change your frequency and create a more dominant vibration, which usurps the negative vibration. So you don't have to worry. This is what the Esther and Jerry Hicks, the teachings of Abrahams, they called it the science of deliberate creation once upon a time. And everyone got so caught up with like trying to retract their negative thoughts because they were worried that their negative thoughts were going to manifest. But there is the dominant thought, that is the thoughts that manifest. So you can have critical negative thoughts that aren't going to necessarily manifest because you can override them. You know, in the moment you can like, that person's stupid. That's a stupid thing to say. You idiot. But that negative energy is not necessarily going to manifest straight away. When you change your thought was, you know, you can say, it's not really stupid. I was just having a moment, and you shift your frequency, because the positive frequency is much more dominant than a negative frequency.
And when
So,
when you do that, you rise up a little bit more. So then you're on a different frequency that you're not going to get that stuff anyway. I mean, we all get negative things or bad things or whatever, but that kind of changes it, because if you're way up here in your frequency, you're not getting this stuff that's down here, you know? Yeah.
absolutely. So I was reading Shirley's comment here, where she's saying, yeah, and we'd behave in front of
We know we're talking. Huey will tell me, Shirley, what you're doing.
I know. We think that's something Garnet Shawhouse has said to me. I don't know if I discussed it with him in the last show I had, but you know, Garnet, who was on the show recently, and I've had him on like 7 other times of his 8th show that he'd been on. He had all these amazing experiences with his spirit guide, incredible experiences. And I said to him, on one of the first shows, what's the most profound thing that you've learned from your spirit guide? And he said that animals are souls. He said, when I spoke to the soul of my little dog in spirit, and I realized he's the same energy as I am, the same sort of energy. Like animals don't not have souls, and they don't have different souls. That souls are souls are souls are souls, whether you're a tree or an animal or a planet or an ET or whatever. It's all one consciousness. When he realized that, he thought about how he'd come home angry, not angry, but frustrated and tired and overworked, and the dog would be at the front door, buck, 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 hello, I'm so happy that you're home. And he'd ignore the dog, and the dog would be hungry, and he'd ignore the dog. Somebody feed the dog. You know how we treat our animals. We don't treat them as if they're real people. When he realized that the dog is the same soul as anyone, any human, he completely changed his mind about animals and started treating animals differently. And I thought, wow, that's beautiful. That was,
he changed it for me, because I remember, I knew that that's what you're going to say. I remember that, and you'd be doing the same thing, because people, you know, animal behaviorists or whatever they are, you know, will tell you will tell you to ignore your dog when they come in, because they're jumping and they're excited and they're happy and whatever. No, you have to ignore them and they'll stop doing that. But when he spoke and said that, I'm like, oh my God, he's like, they're so excited. They haven't seen you in 7 or 8 hours. I mean, nobody else is excited like that or whatever, you know? So now it's different. When I come home and they're all there, it's like, oh, hello, this, whatever, oh, what are you doing? You know, and so he changed that. I remember him being on the show and talking about that. And it might have been in his book too, because I read a couple of his books.
I think it is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true. So now when I come home and they're all at the door, it's like I'm happy. And
Yeah.
pet each one, and then I'll continue on, kind of. Yeah. Mm.
Sandra says, thanks for your time. She has to go now. Thanks, Sandra. And what does Leah say here? Hugh is a sacred prayer. Yes, it is. Hugh is a sacred prayer. Human, it absolutely is. And yeah, Shirley says, oh, I see. My cat Hugh stares at me. And it, what does that say?
Unnerves me.
Oh, unnerves me. Yeah. I know. They look inside you. They read your thoughts. They know what you're thinking. Yep, absolutely. Cats,
And they
animals
still
are.
love you anyway, like everything you do or don't do or whatever, and they still love you. They're just waiting for you.
I have to
Yeah.
do a station ID break. You're listening to ATP Media, Accentuating the Positive with KAren Swain, Awakening Consciousness on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 FM syndicated radio all over the place. I think that we're streaming into 120 countries and on 8 different platforms. And I'm chatting today with Sherry Maddigan because she's popped online. My guest, who was supposed to be Sean Clayton, who I was really looking forward to talk to, didn't show up. He might have got the times wrong. He might show up when the show finishes, but I do I'm very diligent about putting the times. He had 2 assistants that he asked me to talk to, and one of them, their email kept bouncing back, but then there was another one. So there was him, I spoke to him, and 2 assistants, and he still didn't show up. Sometimes you can have so much help and you still don't get it right. Maybe he's just so busy that he didn't look at the time. He looked, because I put on Eastern time and Pacific time, and he's in Central time. Maybe he didn't work out the time in Central time. I don't know. Or his assistants didn't. 2 assistants. What are you saying here? What does it feel like when you connect with your dog? Oh, who are you directing that at, Penny? Are you directing that at any of us? What does it feel like when you connect with your dog? I'm going to ask Sherry to answer that question.
Well, for me, because and I test it too. I kind of when I just send them thoughts. Like one of my dogs, this little one, she's up in the bedroom, which is way upstairs and in another room or whatever. I'll just think in my head to her, treat, just the word treat, come. And it'll take a few seconds, and next thing you know is she's coming down our stairs. She gets it every time, and or if I want to wash her or bring her, she did it just the other day again, like I don't say one word, and I actually now had to try to think of something different while I'm doing it. I'm, turning on the taps and doing all the stuff. So I'm trying to think of anything else. Oh, look at that picture and whatever in my head, because she gets it. Whatever I'm thinking, that dog gets it. So she'll be gone. She'll be gone up and under the bed. As soon as I'm like, even the thought comes to my head, she's gone before I even turn the taps or do anything. But it's just, and when you do that often enough, you just try to send a little picture, or that's not sending a picture. She's just picking it up. But you can just start, just send those little pictures, and when you'll see when they're getting it, they will get it, and then you can realize you're talking to them, and they feel all your emotions anyway.
She says, my dog looks at me like I should be able to do this. I can see it in his eyes, but I just don't know, other than talking in my head. Hope this helps. We'll pick it up. His name is Ponto. Yeah, it's so interesting. Psychic ability. It is your thoughts talking in your head. And as Sherry and I spoke about, you do have to trust it. Like when that dog came over and sniffed the little dead body of that dog, and then looked up and looked me in the eyes and said, he's gone. It was so real. It was like a person said it to me, but it was all in my head. It was all telepathic. The humans were telling me he's dead. I saw it. And still I was like, no, I don't know. No, I was still in doubt. But when the dog said he's gone, it's just such authority. And what did that feel like? It just, it always feels to me when I get messages from spirit, which is all the time, it feels like authority. Even though it was a dog speaking to me, it feels like, it's like an aha, like, oh, right. it alleviates your doubt. For me, it does. It
Mm.
alleviates, like you can have this doubt, questioning. Maybe when you're questioning whether or not your dog is communicating with you, Penny, maybe there is a thought in your head that alleviates that doubt, and then you can doubt it again. But yeah,
Trust
great
it.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just trust it.
it.
Yeah.
But I have to say that telepathy or psychic ability is not, so profound. Like we give these people that channel and that are psychic so much specialness. And
No,
like
it's there. Mm.
everyone is doing it. Every single person is doing it. Everyone can speak or can see, some better than others, so some people need glasses to see. But we all are doing it all the time. I remember in the Conversation with God books, Neil Donald Walsh wrote about speaking to God, and people would ask Neil, what makes you so special that God would speak to you to write these books? And then God would always answer in the books, well, God speaks to everybody. It's not who is God speaking to, as we call God, but who's listening. Like who is listening. So for the most part, we're listening to our doubt and our fears and our doubt and our doubt. I was saying to a client the other day, during that time of reading the Conversation with God books, I was in my 30s and I was an energy healer, and I was doing a lot of psychic stuff on people and getting a lot of messages. And I was I was still in that place of real doubt. And then in the book's Conversation with God, they talk about the contrast in life and how the contrast in life highlights the energy of who we are so fantastically that we come to experience the contrast or the traumas. So there's a little story, Little Soul in the Sun. Like, how do you know what love is if you don't experience what it is not? And when you return to love, you know love in a completely new way. And so with that, I remember thinking about my doubt, about, am I just making this up? Am I really doing this? I was in a whole lot of doubt. And then I had this thought. When I say I had this thought, I now know they were giving me this, like my guides, my soul, my spiritual team were giving me this thought. How do you know what confidence really feels like if you've never experienced doubt? So the doubt is highlighting the confidence for you. And so enjoy the doubt. And I thought it just shifted everything for me. I remember thinking, instead of wanting the doubt to go away, the unsureness, like I started to love that I was doubting, because having that experience of doubting, I would understand the different qualities of thought. Like I know what doubt feels like, and I know what confidence or knowing feels like, because you feel the different qualities of thought. So I started to love the doubt. So for everybody who doubts that they're psychic or that they receive messages from spirit, love your doubt. Like love your doubt and know what doubt feels like, and what thought feels like when it just comes to you and there's no doubt involved. It's just a thought that comes quickly. It's there. It's in your head. It sort of like surprises you in many ways. Like you would know this, Sherry. Like when I had the image of my friend in spirit with the little dog. It's funny because I was in my upset, because I just found out that she died and I didn't even know she was sick. So I was upset, and then I was asking myself, why am I upset? Am I upset because she's dead, because I understand there is no death? Or am I upset because I didn't take the time to see her before she died? And then I was sort of in that, and I thought I should reach out and speak to her. Do I want to reach out and speak to her? I'm in a whole world of doubt, like what would I ask her? And then she sends me this image, bang. And there was no doubting the image. The image was there. The image was there. I didn't exactly know what the image meant at the time, but the image was there. There's no doubting it. My dog loves it when I do spiritual toning, Teslie says. Yeah.
They do. Even when I do Reiki or when I do meditation or anything, they all want to come in the room. They're all, they do. They feel that all of that stuff right away. Yeah.
All my pets have come to they are okay after spirit. Yeah, exactly. They give so much comfort. And what does Claudia? Oh no, I didn't mean to do that. Sort of shadow. Was it saying still life gives? Painting the dimension. No, I meant to do this one. Here we go. I would love to stay and visit, but I'm in my PJs falling asleep. Claudia says. doing your important work. Thanks for being online. You must be in Eastern time. It's later on Eastern time. Oh, we've got about 15 minutes of to go. It wasn't exactly the show I thought we were going to have. You know, we were talking about Egypt before, and I was going to pose this question to Sean, because it's all over the internet what they found under the one of the pyramids. They found these massive structures, and then in the group today or yesterday, I think it was, somebody said that Snopes, who were the fact checkers, have debunked it and said that it's not true and there's no evidence that there's anything under the pyramid. And
No, I was just going to say they've always said there's rooms and stuff underneath the Sphinx and stuff too. So I don't know. Yeah,
well,
I don't know how much truth.
There's a guy that is one of the authorities. What's his name? I put it in the group. It's here he is. Zahir Hawass. I don't know how to say his name. Who here? Let me see if I can speech it. Who is the authority? Zahir Horus. Anyway, I don't know how to say his name. Who was one of the authorities in Egypt, talking about what they find and don't find, and he's all over the place. And he is somebody that has debunked that there is anything under the Sphinx as well. A lot of channelers and psychics and channels have said that there is amazing stuff under the Sphinx. A lot of people have channeled that. And there's a video of him going into the little door on the side of the Sphinx and taking a camera down there. And there is this little cave and nothing's in there. And so he sort of debunks that and says, no, there's nothing here. And he's also come out and said that there's nothing under the pyramids. But I'm pretty sure that he is paid by people to say that.
Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here.
It usually is.
And so the people that are coming out debunking the theories that are coming out, because I am amazed, like everywhere I look, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, no matter what I click on, there it is coming up. You know, it might be the algorithms if I've looked at one thing, but across all the platforms, this stuff is coming up about what's under the pyramids, what they found under the pyramids.
Maybe in the next week that I do that with my friend, if that same one comes through, I'll ask that question. I'll just see what comes. You know, you don't know, just out of curiosity.
My thoughts on it was that they've seen this structure through an energetic, through sort of bombarding it with, I think it's ultra waves or sound waves or whatever. But I think it's an energetic structure they're looking at, and maybe not a physical structure. I mean, they've depicted it as a physical structure, but there is definitely masses of energy. I mean, people have said that the pyramids are obviously never were tombs, that they are energy vortices that are, some people have said that they use the energy vortices to navigate across the cosmos. You know, when you're flying around in your spaceship, you're using the pyramids that are on different planets to navigate the cosmos. But also they're energy machines. They emit this incredible energy. I mean, the energy that's in that massive mountain, that's the energy in one of those, what's it called? I had someone on the show talking about it.
Mount Shasta or somewhere like that, was it?
Not Mount Shasta, in Europe, in Eastern Europe. It's a huge mountain, and there's a guy that's come out and said it's a massive pyramid, and he's gone in there, he's excavated and found all this stuff inside, and people have debunked it and said he's crazy, it's just a mountain. But they've measured the energy above this mountain, and it's completely different to the energy anywhere else. And he actually says that when you go inside this pyramid, this mountain pyramid, it's like the size of a massive mountain, that the frequency is just so high that it changes your energetic and DNA structure. So these things were energy systems. That's a funny question. Lee wants me to know how I lose weight. Taliwan, let me tell you, I'm much fatter now than when I was a kid. When I went to the celebration of life of my friend, because when I was younger, I was a lot thinner. Although I knew that I always felt fat because I didn't look like the stick figures in modeling magazines. And I know I look thinner. I look thin when I'm online, but I'm not. I'm really actually very overweight. And when I went to this thing, all these people were looking at me in such shock because I'm so old and fat compared to what I used to
Oh
look.
my gosh, you're
20
beautiful.
years ago, 25 years ago. I know I had a lot of people look at me in shock because they hadn't seen me for years. But I said to somebody, well, I might be old and fat, but at least I'm still recognizable. There were some people there which I would never have recognized. It was like school reunion. It was amazing. All these people there that I hadn't seen since school, some of them like 30, 40 years, and some for, well, at least over 20 or 25 years. But yeah, some people were not recognizable at all.
Yeah.
I would never recognize them.
Isn't it crazy when that happens? I've had that happen, and they're looking at you like they know you all the pieces, and I'm trying to, oh, how are you doing? And I have no
I know.
idea who it is.
Well, some of them knew they weren't recognizable, so they came up, they recognized me, which
Mhm.
was kind of nice. I said, oh, well, I might be old and fat, but at least they recognized me, and said, hello, Karen. And I looked at them and they could see in my face, I had no idea. And so they told me their name, and I'm like, oh, that's you. So that was kind of nice. They knew that they weren't recognizable if you haven't seen someone for 40 years. So they told me their name, which was really kind of nice, but it was beautiful to see all these people that I hadn't seen forever and ever and ever. Oh, so beautiful. Well, what a great show it's been today, even though it wasn't the show I wanted to have. I'm seeking a new, healthier path, Leah says. Yeah, I have Horace. Well, yeah, health. I wanted to say health renders itself first in the mind before it does in the body. What does Bruce Lee say? When you change your thoughts, you change the chemistry of your body. I might be old. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I keep cutting you off. Sorry.
That's okay.
No, I was just going to say everything is out here before it ever manifests in your body. So everything in your body, just like Louise Hay had that book out, everything in your body is related to some issue. Like I think it was breast cancer is usually like the woman is taking care of everybody but herself. Like there's different things, and it's all out here before it ever comes in here. So if you could figure out the reason out here first, it would never come inside. Well, I guess we had to learn things, so I guess it has to happen.
It's so interesting. We don't need to figure anything out. We just need to change the way we think about ourselves. If we think that we are unhealthy, we will be unhealthy. If we think that we are overweight, we will be overweight. It's like I say, when I was young, I was as thin as anything, but I didn't look like the stick figures in magazines. So I thought myself fat. And and my thoughts manifested. And so now I look in the mirror and I see the fatness. And so I keep repeating it and repeating it. I haven't mastered the fat thing yet. I haven't thought myself thin yet. But yeah, when we think of who we are, when we state I am, that's who we are. So most of us, set on a path to change something, to correct something, like the health in my body, the weight on my body. I want to change something. But we're so focused on what is that we keep recreating it, restamping it, reprinting it, instead of making the affirmation that I am healthy, or I am the perfect weight, or I
believe in it and believe in it.
And believing in it. Yeah. So when it changes in your mind, it'll change in your body. Yeah, absolutely. When it changes in your mind, it'll change in your body, because we're the creators.
Yeah. I had last week, because when I do my meditation and stuff, sometimes when as I finish, I'll just say, is there anybody who would like to speak to me or say something, and I'll take a pen and I'll write sometimes. But they always, like, irregardless of what message they give, love is always the main message, like love is all there is, kind of thing. But the other day it was interesting in that they were talking about, on the other side, everything is just love and joy and happiness, or that kind of thing. So they said, when you come here, of course, you get to experience all the range of emotions. And they said they're not, I'm thinking like anger and this and that, that's negative, that's not a good emotion. But they didn't really look at it like that. It was like not necessarily negative, it's just another emotion, but you can't experience any of that on the other side. It's just here. So but again, everything comes down to love. Like love is it, so
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Shirley says here that she's happy that Sean didn't arrange the happy surprise for this conversation. Please come back again, Shirley.
Thank you, Shirley.
Yeah. So you're listening to KAren Swain on ATP on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. We haven't spoken about UFOs today, but we have been speaking about what is deemed the paranormal. And I don't know, I think that name paranormal, we've got to make the paranormal
really
normal.
Yeah.
The normal. And the Alicia, yes, like the telepathy tapes is making, there is a paradigm shift happening with the telepathy tapes being such a big conversation across the globe, and making things like psychic ability or telepathy more mainstream, a more mainstream conversation. It's making it more normal. There will be a time where we move into telepathy and psychic ability being our normal way of operating. At the moment, it's still considered paranormal.
If you speak to anybody, you can you can try yourself. Almost anybody I speak to, you get on, well, that's just the way I am. That's what I'm into. So that's what I like to hear about, all that kind of stuff. So most everybody has some kind of experience. They'll tell you, from the old to the young, they'll come up with something and tell you. It's like, really? And, so yeah, it is normal. It's more normal.
Esther Hicks from the Teachings of Abraham has often said, or the Abraham teachings, that shifts, like massive shifts in paradigms, change usually when the collective consciousness that holds the reality that this is not true, that this is not real, die. Like they have to die to take away that energy. And then the new sparky ones that say, this is possible, this is real, I get it, this happens to me, I see this happening to me, that becomes the more dominant thought. Grant Cameron was talking about that last week on the show too, that sometimes it takes a shift in generations for actually paradigms to really shift on Earth. And Esther would say the old grumpy ones die away. But what I'm going to do, 4 minutes left, I'm doing some online healing courses to help people overcome their stressful negative thoughts and to heal their body and heal their mind. And it really all comes down to love and acceptance and loving what is. It's based in the laws of attraction or the laws of deliberate creation. And it's profound work. You've done some of them with me, Sherry.
They're awesome. They're awesome.
My guides
awesome. They help you change your thoughts. Yeah.
These are specifically done on healing, because I've had profound shifts with this work, profound healings with this work. And it's completely the opposite of what our normal medical model has. It's instead of resisting and wanting to change and wanting to heal, can you love what is? And finding that love for what is has profound ways of shifting things. Amazing. So if you're interested in doing that, reach out to me at karenswain.com.
She's amazing. She's awesome.
I'm also doing some in person this week. I've got a few people coming to my home to do some in-person gatherings. I've been thinking about it forever, and I went for a swim the other day and the guides were at me, do this, do this, do this, do this. And I got home, like, it's funny when you're in the water or washing the dishes or doing something, and the guides sort of come in and I'm like, all right, I have to action this. But Diane, thanks for coming on the show and helping us out today.
Thank you for having me on.
And just tell people who are listening who you are, and do you have a website if they want to reach out?
No, I keep saying I'm going to do some of that stuff with everything, but I still haven't done anything. I'm on Facebook, but just under my name, but that's about it for now. I'll have to do some of that.
So Sherry Maddigan is your name on Facebook. So there's no other way. But if you want to connect with Sherry, reach out to me either through the website or through
my email. On my email, I guess, too. Yeah.
So what's your email?
My name, Sherry Maddigan at yahoo.ca. Yeah. Canada, I guess.
Yeah.
.ca,
Thanks, Lisha. She said it was a great show. Yeah. Fabulous courses. Yeah. Thanks, Shirley. We'll have to get your website up and running. Put some of your art on your website and your readings, because you do readings for people as well.
I do some. Yeah. I need to do more. I don't know what I'm doing all the time, but I'm always busy. I retired, I left work, and I don't stop.
But you're good at it and you're interested in it.
Oh, yes. I love it. Yeah, I love it all.
Yeah. So, next time you talk to your Egyptian spirit friend, ask him about the pyramids.
Yeah, I'm going to ask him if there's anything underneath and what it is, and just see what he comes up with.
Carl says, brilliant conversation. Thanks you both. Thank you, Carl. Thank you. And what have we got? We've got about a minute left to go on the show. Yeah, thanks everybody for listening and watching. I'm sorry our guest didn't turn up. I'll have to go and change all the hedge. I'll have to speak to him and see if he'll come back on the show. Yeah, I was interested in talking to him today, but who's coming up next week? Somebody, I don't know, I haven't got that open. But we are going to do another Spirit Speaks with Sandy. Is that happening next week? Where you can ask your questions to Spirit. You can ask any Spirit. Oh, Stephen Simon's coming up next week. Yeah, so Stephen Simon, who's a Hollywood producer, director. He's made many amazing movies. What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams, and Somewhere in Time with, he was the old Superman. What's his name? I've forgotten his name. And amazing. Anyway, as I said, his wife transitioned a few years ago, and he's in communication with his wife.
Yeah,
and he wrote a book
really
about
interesting. He was
Yeah, he
interesting.
wrote a book about it
Before,
called What Dreams Have Come. But so he's coming back on the show. Thank you, darling one, for being on the show. Thanks everyone for listening. And we'll see you all next time. Bye for now.
Bye.